Hey everyone, welcome to the Dr. Josh Axe Show. I am your host, Dr. Axe, and each and every week on this show, I cover the science and principles behind how to grow in body, mind, spirit, and take your health and your life to the next level. On today's episode, I'll be answering your questions on things like, are Xrays safe or not? Do I personally use a microwave? How to remove pesticides from your produce? How to detoxify from mold? And so much more. Hey, but before we dive in, I want to let you know you can submit your questions to me via Instagram. You can simply go on Instagram, follow me. I post on my stories regularly. A place where you can ask your questions. And so just follow me at Dr. Josh Axe on Instagram. Also, you can send me a voice message and actually be featured in the show. Just click this link right here and you can submit a voice message and be part of the show. And you'll hear a few of those today. All right. Question number one, will soaking conventional strawberries in sodium bicarbonate, and baking soda, remove pesticides? The answer is yes, quite a few. In fact, research was conducted at the University of Massachusetts, and they found that soaking, I think it was specifically apples, in baking soda was more effective at removing pesticides than rinsing them with tap water or even using a bleach solution. In fact, in the study, combining a 1% baking soda solution removed up to 96% of certain pesticides from the surface of apples after just 10 to 15 minutes of soaking. Now, the study revealed that baking soda solution was particularly effective against almost all of the surface pesticides. However, I do want to note that some of those more systemic pesticides that penetrate deeper into the fruit, those were not entirely removed. For instance, there is a pesticide known as thiabendazole, which penetrates deeper into the fruit's core beyond the peel, and that is more challenging to remove. So my answer is generally probably 90+% of pesticides can be removed if you soak them in baking soda. What we do is we just add about a teaspoon or two of baking soda to some water, soak them for about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's what we do. We do that even with our organic produce here at our house. But yes, using a combination of baking soda and water does remove a significant amount of chemicals and pesticides from your produce. All right, I got a question here from Christina on counting calories.
Hi, Dr. Axe. I'm following a whole food diet, but I've read a lot of conflicting things about whether I should be counting calories or not. I've been, following a lot of functional medicine doctors and influencers, and really there seems to be a lot of conflicting information out there about whether counting calories is important or not. I've grown up to believe that calories are really important to keep track of and count, but then other people are just saying that no, that's not necessary and could even be harmful. Can you please comment on that in detail and then also any science to back up your thoughts? Thank you.
Yeah, so my opinion on counting calories, and by the way, I've worked with tens of thousands of patients in helping them lose weight and reverse numerous conditions, everything from autoimmune disease to hypothyroidism to helping people with fertility to helping men boost their testosterone significantly. And what I found is that in most cases, it's just not necessary. Now, listen, it can be helpful. And for some people that are very organized and precise, it can be good. But what I found is for most people, they're better off focusing on eating the ideal foods for them and eating until they're about 70 to 80% full, and then stopping eating. And if somebody has the discipline to stop eating when they're about that 75, 80% full, and then they don't overeat and they're just eating the right foods, that will help pretty much every single person heal and reverse whatever they're trying to reverse in terms of a condition and get to their ideal weight. Now, some people are wired differently. Some people really like to know, I want to know my exact amount of calories I can't or can't have. Now, this can be more important in athletics. When you look at people that are training as athletes, sometimes dialing in that nutrition down to the, to the fraction of the ounce is important. But for most people, it's just not necessary. Again, I've never had anybody that to where I wasn't able to get the results with them I wanted via just generally just eating until they were 70 to 80% full. Now, on occasion, I have recommended it to people who really were wired that way. They just wanted to know, and it bothered them not knowing. And Chinese medicine will call these people metal elements. They're very black and white. They tend to be very numbers driven. And that's okay if that's you. Everybody has a different personality. So if you feel like counting calories and being aware of the exact calories and measuring your food, if that you feel like this is going to help you, then by all means do it. But I found for most people, it's a greater form of stress having to measure and look at everything constantly. It's a lot more work. And so for most people, I don't recommend it. But if you believe it's going to help you, I do think counting calories can be a good thing for a small group of people. All right, another question here. Is it bad to eat leftovers that are reheated in the microwave? Also, do you store yours in plastic or glass containers? Now, here's my opinion on this. I do not own a microwave. I haven't owned a microwave for, I don't think I've used a microwave since I was probably about 20, since after college. So probably once I hit the age of 23, I never used the microwave again. That's been about 20 years now. And there is not a lot of evidence scientifically showing that microwaves are bad for you, okay? The form of radiation really probably isn't that bad for you. But just because there's not a lot of research, period. Okay, so there's not like a multiple studies or a big meta-analysis done on microwaves to actually prove that it's not healthy. I choose not to use it, one, because I think it's probably unhealthy in a very, very minute way. There are other things that are a much bigger deal than whether you use the microwave or not. But generally out of principle and generally out of knowing there aren't a lot of large scale, long-term studies done on microwave use, I just don't use it because I don't think it's the safest way to cook my food, even though, of course, it's incredibly convenient. Now, I will tell you this, heating up any form of plastic is not good for you. So whether you heat it up in a microwave or an oven or another form of machinery, it's not good for you. So that's the thing I would stay away from in big time microwaving is if you're microwaving anything in plastic or anything with bisphenol A or phthalates or any sort of that lining you're going to have with any packaging, then I would not do that. I would only heat up things in glass in a microwave. The other question you had here was around, now I will say this in terms of one study has been done on microwaves that indicated that the radiation emitted from microwaves could affect heart rate and heart rate variability, your HRV, which is really important for recovery and healing. But those effects were observed under controlled conditions with exposure levels higher than those that were slightly above your typical microwave. And so again, there is no real concrete evidence. It could affect heart health though. But just because there is a slight chance that microwaves are unhealthy and there is a very small amount of a certain type of radiation, because of that, I don't do it. But probably it is less, it's not quite as harmful as maybe a lot of people think that are in the natural health space who have said it's the worst, thing you could ever use. But again, I don't use it. And yes, in our house, we use almost exclusively glass and stainless steel for keeping our food leftovers in. And we have a lot of food leftovers. We steam big things of vegetables and bake, and hey, we have a lot of leftovers, but we have a lot of these glass Pyrex, stainless, or glass containers that we keep pretty much all of our food in. All right, question here. Are Xrays safe? I always told my kids' dentists and doctors to only take X-rays if they are absolutely necessary. Was I right to be cautious? Generally chest X-ray, if you're doing an X-ray of something like your spine or even a dental X-ray, the amount of radiation you're getting is fairly low. For instance, dental X-rays, it's extremely low, very, very low. In fact, it's like 0.005 MSVs per image. And so dental X-rays is extremely low. You don't really need to worry much about dental imaging. I will say that certain other tests, the radiation rates are much higher. Mammogram for an X-ray, a chest X-ray, which might be a little stronger as well, is 0.1. A mammogram is 0.4 MSV. So that's, that's getting up there, but CT scans are much higher. Those are 2 MSV. So a CT scan will have more than 20 times the amount of radiation than an X-ray. So CT scans are very, very high. In fact, a CT scan of your abdomen or pelvis is around 100 times. It's like getting 100 X-rays. So remember that getting a CT scan of anywhere in your body is like getting 100 X-rays at one time. Okay. PET scans are even higher. PET scans are like getting 400 X-rays at a single time. All right. Now, there are other forms of, radiation we're getting on a regular basis. In fact, flying has 0.05. It's like every time you fly, it's like getting half an X-ray on a commercial flight per hour. So it's a half an X-ray per hour of flying. And so that can add up over time. The X-ray scanners at the airport do have a small amount, but it's more like getting a dental X-ray. It is fairly low. And there are things actually smoking. If you're a smoker, you're getting some radiation there. But those are your biggest sources. But the big thing to know is PET scans, very, very high, CT scans, and then flying actually is a fair amount of radiation if you travel a lot. And what I'd recommend to protect yourself is doing a lot of green vegetables and things that support glutathione production. I really like spirulina and chlorella. Taking those supplements with you when you fly, along with doing a lot of vegetables before, like steamed green vegetables like broccoli and spinach before and after you fly. But just doing a little bit of milk thistle, green vegetables, also that spirulina, chlorella, or taking a green superfood powder with you and doing some of those greens that might have the spirulina, chlorella, the chlorophyll in it. Those are the best things you can probably do to protect yourself from radiation. All right, question here. Should toddlers take any supplements? What about vitamin D for babies? I think that there are some good supplements for toddlers to take. Let me just kind of share with you some of the studies according to the Linus Paulding Institute. I want to say it's around 10% of kids are deficient in vitamin D, around 7 to 10% in iron, around 20% in calcium and magnesium, around 5% in vitamin A, around 15% of zinc. And then there are some B vitamins. That tends to be lower, but there are some. I think that most kids can benefit from, when they're toddlers, let's say 2 to 6 years old, from taking a multivitamin and a probiotic. Those are the two I think that kids probably need the most. Again, and by the way, it should be a food-based multivitamin, where there's a lot of foods listed and they're in food form. And there's only a few companies that actually do food-based multivitamins. Some do it and they'll put food on the packaging, but not a whole lot do. Oftentimes you're going to see Saccharomyces, certain types of yeast on the label with the vitamins that means that they're more food-based, and you're going to see a lot of foods listed there as well. So doing that and a probiotic, those are the two supplements that kids need the most. So if you only put them on two, a multivitamin along with a probiotic. After that, I think some kids can benefit from a greens powder. Some kids can benefit from an omega. And if a child does not get outside at all and they're living up north, okay, and get very little sunlight, they might do some vitamin D. But if you do vitamin D without magnesium, oftentimes it can back up babies and kids. So if you give your kids vitamin D, you'll also want to give them magnesium. If not, it can cause some constipation with those kids. But I would say, generally speaking, most kids benefit. Like our daughter right now, Arwen, she does a probiotic and a multivitamin and greens. And that's all she takes. That's what we have her take. Outside of that, she eats a lot of fruits and vegetables and wild organic meat. And she's really healthy for it. All right. Can you list the most important supplements to buy on a limited budget? Well, this is going to be very, very close to what I recommend for kids. I would say a multivitamin and a probiotic, a greens powder. If you live up north, vitamin D, and if you have heart issues or you have some inflammation, and omega. Those are probably the 5 I would recommend for most people. And if you're on a limited budget, we'll start at the top. I would say for most people, a multi and a probiotic are the 2 most important. And if you're generally getting a lot of nutrients, you're eating really clean, well, maybe you don't need that. But yeah, generally speaking, a multi and a probiotic are the best. And let me say this as well. Maybe on certain days you buy it, you have a supplement, but if you eat a certain food, then you don't take the supplement that day. Let me give you an example. Let's say that day you're having a cup of yogurt. Maybe that day you don't take your probiotics so it lasts longer. Let's say that day you ate vegetables every single meal and you did a lot of green leafies. Maybe that day you don't do a greens powder. Maybe it's the summer, and so you got sun that day, so you don't take your vitamin D that day. Maybe that day you ate wild caught fish like salmon, so you don't take your omega. So sometimes you have these supplements and you're filling in the gaps for when you're not getting that food in your diet. That's another way to do these things on a budget. Also, look out for when supplement companies that you love are having a sale, and wait for those times of sale and buy in bulk at those times. Those are some of the ways you can really get by on a budget. All right, question here. What are your thoughts on the current childhood vaccine schedule? Listen, this is a very difficult question for me to answer on social media, because my answer could likely just get blocked or taken down, and that's not going to help you. It's not going to help me. Let me just say this. When I was a kid, I had a total of 4 vaccines I received total. That's it, 4. Today, the recommendations are closer to 70 to 100. I mean, and I don't, and here's the other thing I'll say. I don't trust pharmaceutical companies and their agenda. And that's not me being a conspiracy theorist. It's just me saying I follow the money. I've been in the medical profession a long time. I've seen kids in their health that are vaccinated and unvaccinated, and and then some parents who have decided, hey, they're going to change the schedule. They're going to give a few, but not many. So I have seen all of those things in practice and taking care of thousands and thousands of families and kids. And all that being said, I recommend that you do your own research, read books on the topic, and educate yourself as much as you possibly can, and make the best decision you possibly can for your families. I think going through COVID opened a lot of people's eyes to some of the things that the pharmaceutical companies and the government and the World Health Organization, the CDC, some of the things that they are pushing and really trying to force upon people. And I'd ask a question with COVID, people that were vaccinated versus not, who is healthier and who is less healthy. Now, I know, and you also need to think about who is coming up with the studies and what do they want you to believe. I mean, I did an episode recently on the number of studies that are inaccurate, that are false. And it's something like almost 50% you can't trust because of biasness, because cherry picking data. We saw this. We have people like Dr. Anthony Fauci. I also did an entire episode on him. You should watch it if you haven't, really going through the lack of integrity and the lies around what he has promoted and said throughout his career. And so the thing that I would just recommend you do is read and be educated, and then do this. Here's the biggest thing as well, along with educating yourself. Look at the families and the parents that follow the exact schedule, that follow a modified lower schedule, and those that don't vaccinate. Look at all of those families and those kids and see who tends to be the healthiest between all of those families. That'll actually tell you more than anything else, okay? There's a principle in the Bible, and it says, Jesus says this. His disciples are asking, well, how do we know? And he says, by their fruit, you will recognize them. If I want to know how to be wealthy, well, then I'm going to follow the top 1% of the 1% by their fruit. Warren Buffett is incredibly wealthy and has great business principles. Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Kathy Wood, a lot of these really successful people. And we look at them and say, okay, by their fruit, we can recognize that they understand the principles of business and money. Okay, so I'm going to follow that person and do what they do. I'm not going to listen to the crowd, all the propaganda, everything else out there. I'm going to follow and listen to this person that has good fruit in their life. Okay, if I want to grow spiritually, I want to follow certain pastors and rabbis and spiritual leaders and priests and people that or just people that have great virtue and integrity, people like Tim Tebow and Sadie Robertson, and people that are doing things with great virtue. I'm going to follow them that top 1% of the 1%, in order to discover what the truth is. In fact, if you study the area of ethics, I took courses when I got my degree at Johns Hopkins University. I studied ethics, and this is part of the leadership courses and psychology training I got. And they said the most accurate way to know if something is right or wrong, to know if something is truly virtuous or moral or ethical, is to say, who is the most ethical person on the earth, or the person with the greatest character? What would they do in this situation? Or what would 10 of the most high character people do in this situation? Well, it's the very same thing with your health in answering this question. What do the healthiest people do or not do? Do what they do. Another question I had come in here. How do you recommend dealing with parents and in-laws who are very critical of how my husband and I parent our children? Be courteous and convicted. Okay. So we are called to honor our fathers and mothers. Okay. So no matter what my in-laws say, no matter what my parents say, I am going to be respectful. I'm going to honor them. I'm going to love them. I'm going to give them the respect they deserve. I mean, my parents were so amazing in raising me, all the things they gave up. And so knowing that, I'm going to show them great honor and say, hey, I understand you feel that way. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I know that you care about me, and I hear what you're saying. And then sharing with them, but here's the reality of what we've decided to do with our family. We've decided for this reason to feed our kids this way, to educate our kids this way. And here's why we're going to do that. Because I love them more than anything else in this world. And and maybe the conversation is around, because here's one I get a lot, by the way. Hey, when my parents or my in-laws watch my kids, they give them food that's very unhealthy, or they do something. And you need to say here, and you need to let them know the boundaries. Our kids are not to eat high fructose corn syrup in this food, or they're not to watch these shows. And I ask you not to use this sort of language around our kids. And if you can't do that, hey, listen, that's your choice, of course. And listen, I love you no matter what, but I can't have you spending time with my kids. I'm not going to send them to your house anymore. So it's that sort of conversation you need to have, where you are courteous and you are respectful and honoring, but also you live out your convictions. And it's good to educate the person and explain why, and keeping your cool and having that sort of conversation. But that's how I would handle that situation. All right, another question here. How do I look after my body after miscarriage? Well, first off, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know that is incredibly, incredibly hard. Here is what you need to do. Okay. There tends to be a lot of loss of blood, and even just via, obviously via the miscarriage itself, but also the most common pattern that people have after miscarriage is they have what's called in Chinese medicine a blood deficiency, okay, where the blood is deficient. So you need to build back the blood, and you need to build back your feelings of being safe and secure. And there are very specific foods and supplements to do that. From a dietary standpoint, you want to do things like beetroot juice. You want to do a lot of red meat. You want to take a liver or a multi-organ supplement where you're getting organ meats. So beetroot juice, eat a lot of red meat, eat liver, take liver and organ supplements, take dong quai as an herb. And you also likely want to take some probiotics that'll support the absorption of B vitamins, which you're going to need as well. And then you want to do a lot of warm herbal teas and a lot of soups. You want to do beef stew, chicken, vegetable, and rice soup. You want to do, again, things like grass-fed burgers, steamed vegetables with things like hummus, those warming foods. Think about Thanksgiving, doing pumpkin and squash. But you want to build your blood and build your pancreas. Doing pumpkin pie spice and cinnamon would be very, very good as well. So a lot of those really nourishing comfort foods, soups and stews are going to be ideal. Sweet potatoes, yams, that's the ideal diet. But there's also a mental and spiritual component. And I would say spend time with God. Read your Bible, go to church, praise God through the storm. and spend time connecting with other ones you love. Spend time on a couch, cuddled up in a big warm blanket, just resting. Going on walks is probably one of the best things to do, just regular walks, in order to just move your body and your lymphatic system, which is important for continued just cleansing and rebuilding. And then the other thing I would say, see an acupuncturist. Acupuncture really will help you build your body back up faster, bringing balance and strength to those organs and blood. So seeing an acupuncturist weekly for a few months, if you do those things, it'll get your body right back on track. Another question here. Have you read anything about the long-term effects of Lexapro? I have. Here's the reality. Lexapro and other antidepressant medications are very hard on the body. They tend to leach a lot of nutrients. In fact, I wrote in my book, Ancient Remedies, I did a section on the nutrients depleted when you take different medications. Specifically, Lexapro and other antidepressants deplete the body of vitamin B6, vitamin B12, and folate. Now, these are the most crucial nutrients for methylation. And if you're not methylating properly, it actually causes depression. So the reality is, if you're taking an antidepressant, it pulls nutrients out of your body that are going to cause you to be more depressed in the future. So you have to, if you're on an antidepressant, take a methylated B complex vitamin and a probiotic supplement, because that's going to support the absorption. The other nutrients that are depleted when you take a drug like an antidepressant is vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, and coenzyme Q10. So it's also going to affect your heart health. So you absolutely want to take those nutrients. So yes, I have read many of the long-term studies, and they all point to major nutrient depletion and worse depression. What I would recommend, and I'm going to get to that, another question I had come in from somebody was, what are the best natural antidepressants? And so what I would say first and foremost is focus on your diet. Get more healthy fats in your diet. Get a lot of protein. You want to do red meat and wild caught fish. Specifically, organic pastured eggs are also fantastic. A lot of fruits like berries, a lot of cooked vegetables, and some nuts and seeds, specifically walnuts, would be fantastic for you to do on a regular basis there as well. Some dark chocolate, because that's high in magnesium. If you do those foods, it's going to help tremendously. And maybe some probiotic rich foods like some coconut yogurt and kefir, and even sauerkraut. So follow a diet that's very similar to what I shared there. From a supplement standpoint, the best things are going to be taking a B complex supplement with methylated nutrients, vitamin D, an omega-3 fatty acid supplement. And then as another nutrient, probably magnesium is the next one that I would recommend on that list. After that, the herbals that have been shown to be most effective are St. John's wort, SAMe, 5-HTP, even L-theanine. And then I really like ashwagandha and rhodiola rosea. Those also sort of strengthen your energy levels and help as well. But I like rhodiola and ashwagandha if it's also you're feeling sort of depressed and also just tired and unmotivated. So rhodiola and ashwagandha are good for that. And if you're feeling just really a poor mood, then St. John's wort, SAMe, and 5-HTP are probably the most helpful. But really, generally, if there's only a few you're going to take, I would recommend a methylated B complex, vitamin D, and an omega-3 fatty acid. And then in terms of herbs, St. John's wort. Those would be the top supplements to take when it comes to as natural antidepressants. Now, here's another big thing. Most people are depressed today. There's also a lack of purpose and a lack of community of good friends. So the other thing you absolutely want to do to fight depression is go and find out what is your purpose and grow spiritually. Focus on spiritual growth, connecting with God, and then go be part of a virtuous community, a community of people that are encouraging, loving you, whether that be going to a local church or a synagogue or somewhere where people are going to be uplifting and connecting in that way. Or maybe it doesn't have to be a spiritual group, but a group of people that are high in character that will encourage you. So you need to go and build community. You need to go and find purpose, grow spiritually, and then walking outside, spending time outside, getting sun and exercise has also been shown to be a great natural antidepressant. In fact, in studies, exercise has been shown to outperform a lot of antidepressants. So if you do all of these things I shared, you change your diet, you take some of these supplements, you build community, you walk outside, do some exercise, that's the best approach to fighting depression naturally. Question here, do you have tips on detoxifying mold? I do. The first is, if you live in a moldy home, you've got to get out of the home. That's number one, period. You got to get out. And then if it's in your ventilation system, you have to have somebody come in and clean it out and do everything you can to just get rid of the mold out of the home. The next thing you want to do is have an air purifier going, a really good air purifier. There's several good brands. There's Air Doctor, there's IntelliPure, but get a good air purifier. Now, once you've got the mold out of your home, or you're in a new home and you've got an air purifier going, I like ozone treatment. So you can get ozone in your blood. It's called EBU or a 10-pass, or you can just get it via an IV. But doing ozone IVs, ozone helps kill off a lot of microbes, Lyme disease, viral infections that can get into your blood. So that'll help. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is very good for mold. So getting in a hyperbaric chamber a few times a week, or at least once a week, would be helpful. And then taking supplements that are going to help support your body's own glutathione production. Milk thistle is one of the best for that. Doing green nutrients, nutrient-dense foods like spirulina, chlorella. Just eating a lot more vegetables, taking chlorophyll. But milk thistle or taking N-acetylcysteine. Milk thistle and N-acetylcysteine will be some of the best for supporting your body's own glutathione production, and supporting your overall lung health. Respiratory health is also good for mold. But those are some of the top tips I would recommend for detoxifying your body from mold. Now, if you know you're going into a place and having exposure, you can do things like activated charcoal or carbon, but you don't want to do these things long term because they bind to minerals and back your gut up. So you don't typically want to ever do that more than a few days. So really, activated charcoal and carbon are not good long-term solutions. I'd also recommend a probiotic, and one that has humic acid in it or fulvic acid. They can help bind to some of the mold and eliminate it from your body. But those are some of the big tips I'd have for detoxifying your body from mold. All right, last question here. What is your favorite part of being a business owner? Oh, goodness. I love being an entrepreneur. I love it. I love being a doctor. And let me say this. Here's what I love. I love learning. I am constantly learning new things. I'm learning more about leadership, more about people. I learn more about health because that's part of my job as well. But I love learning. The thing I probably like the most, though, about being a business owner is building teams and mentoring others. I have been so blessed to have amazing mentors in my life, mentors in the health space, mentors spiritually, mentors relationally, in a lot of different areas, mentors in business. And that has blessed my life more than anything else. It's having people that have discipled me and mentored me has had the biggest impact on my life more than anything else. That, and along with having really a great friend group. So I love being able to help people grow as leaders, helping people find out what they're good at and helping them grow in that area, and helping people grow in their character and own leadership skills. So that is my absolute favorite part of being a business owner, is mentoring and discipling people that I've been entrusted with to help them grow to their maximum in their in their career and in their character. Hey, I want to say thank you so much for these amazing questions. Remember, you can ask a question by following me on Instagram. If you follow me at Dr. Josh Axe, I'll post on my stories. So start following my stories. I'll post on there and you can ask a question, or you could click a link we have here in order to submit a voice message, and I will answer. By the way, I answer even more voice messages. So if you do that, there's a good chance I answer it as part of the show here. Also, thanks to all of you who are sharing this podcast and show. I see many of you. I'm seeing you out there on Instagram, on Facebook, sharing it. I have had people tell me, I had a friend someone texts me this podcast. So I want to say thank you to all of you who are on mission with me to help change the health of this world, body, mind, and spirit. So thank you, all of you, for going and sharing this episode. And also make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed this podcast. And I'm excited to see you on the next episode.